Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live, where I have to once again get my camera. Why does it keep doing this? Like almost every flipping time, without fail, it does this, where I have to reset the flipping camera. Arg. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and the camera will start to look normal in just a second. There we go. We should be now good. At least I am at this end. There we go. Sorted. Anyway, I hope everybody is doing well and has had a good weekend so far. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday evening. I managed to drag myself out of my sick bed. I've been in bed for pretty much most of the entire day. I got up for dinner, basically. And then had dinner and then went back to bed again and slept for maybe about an hour and a half. And then got up maybe about an hour or so ago. So that I could do this show for you guys. Because I was just like, I don't want to miss another Sunday Night Live because I've been sick. So I don't like missing shows. So I hope everybody is doing well and is doing better than I am. Anyways, so tonight, as per usual, this is not really a topic-based show. However, there is something I'm going to show you, which if you don't know about it, it's a very, very handy thing to know about it. Especially if you are wanting to send off audio events to somebody through Dropbox or something like that. So if you're not a member of Studio One Pro Plus, you can still collaborate with people. You can still send things to people. So that's what we're going to look at least for a wee while, because I think it's just a dead handy, useful thing to know. If you know about this, great. You can just sit back and you can just kind of passively watch. But if you're not aware of this, it's really, really useful, really, really handy. I make use of it a lot because not everybody, a lot of the people that I work with, I've now got them making Presonus accounts so that they can use workspaces. And so most of my work is done with workspaces with people these days because it's just the best and it's the easiest way to work. So, I can just export a mixdown, I can export a stem, and I can upload them straight to the workspace. Dead easy. And it works really, really well. But if I'm working with people that don't want to do that, and, let's say they've used things like Dropbox or WeTransfer or something like that, they've used that for years and years, then, that's their thing. And I'm not going to change their habits, so that's okay. I will accommodate those people as well. And so it's just very straightforward for me to send a bass part or a vocal part or a piano part or something like that. I can send that off to another client really, really easily via this method. So I'm going to show you how to do that this evening. But let's go ahead and see who was first in the door. And of course, it was Billy Morgan, because Billy is kind of waiting there for me for the most part, I think. And then we got Stephen Wilson here, and we got Ron Figura, and we got Tony Stringer, we got Rich Cresswell, we got Chris Manrakna, who has been remodeling his studio in a new location. And I've seen your pictures, Chris. It looks awesome. Congratulations, mate. I really like what you've done. Roger Beckett is here, and Kyle Trujisiak is here. Dwayne, Don Oliver, Danny Taylor, Just Bob is here. Lowens is here. Bobby Booth is here, which means we can start. Kingston Dread over in the Caribbean is here as well. Russell Harris, good to see you, mate. Welcome. And he says, thanks for doing your show. You are very welcome. I enjoy doing this show. I enjoy doing both of my shows, actually. They are a barrel of fun. And they're really, really fun to do. I really enjoy them. And I'm really passionate about sharing what I know about Studio One and answering your questions, and also sharing what I know on Wednesdays about songwriting, composing, arranging, and music theory and stuff like that. And you guys always provide the best questions. I gotta say, you're an incredibly knowledgeable bunch already, but you do come up with a bunch of really, really great questions, for which I am very, very grateful, because you like to challenge me, and that's great, because that means I have to think, and I like thinking. So, let's start with doing this thing that we can do, and I'm going to show you how it works. So, first of all, I'm going to go into over here, into Studio One, and this is the theme tune music that we've done. Well, it's not really new theme tune music. It's just, I'm just trying it out. I think I explained just the other week that this started out as a sustain pedal test for a Presonus customer, because they were having issues, and I wanted to show that, you know, I could not reproduce the issues. So I made this piano part, and then I added things to it, and that's what we got. So what we want to do is we want to do a new song, blank new song. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to loops. We're going to grab a drum loop, maybe not that one. Doesn't look like there's a lot of activity on that one. Let's try this one. Yeah, I kind of like that one. So let's grab this one. And they're always a little bit loud, so we just turn them down. And I'm going to change that color to that. I'm going to pull this down so it's a little bit easier to see. So this is what we now have. Got a tasty little drum fill in the middle there. I like that. So what we're going to do is we are going to slam this with some effects so that we can basically, we can hear what's there. So we will grab this compressor, the DC1A3 from Klanghelm. We'll open up the mixer. We will close that, and we'll expand this a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll grab this DC1A version 3. By the way, this is a really, really great plugin from Klanghelm. I believe this is a free one. You can spend a little bit more money and get the big brother of this. But I like this because it's got really simple controls. It's got an input and an output, and that's it. That's all she wrote. So let's go and compress the Hades out of this. And as you will have heard just there, adding all of that compression in there brought out the hi-hats really, really nicely. Alright, so we're doing about 10 dB of compression there. Cool. Alright, so I said I wanted to make this kind of nice and obvious. So we're going to grab another Klanghelm plugin, which I would normally use as a send, but I'm going to actually whack this in here as an insert. This is a spring reverb. And just straight away, that's really obvious. Yep, that's pretty obvious. It sounds pretty disgusting. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go to our Files tab here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to go delete everywhere. So this is my Dropbox folder, which is local on my computer. And the cool thing about this is the people that have access to this, so this is my client folder, and people that don't want to use, if they don't want to use the workspaces in Studio One Pro Plus, they want to use Dropbox, I give them a link to this folder in Dropbox. So they have access to this. So anything I put up here, they will get a notification about, and they can just go and download. So it's very, very straightforward. So let's just say I've recorded this for somebody. We're just using a drum loop as an example, but I could just record something on the roads, or I could sing something, or I could play a bass part, whatever it is that I have done for the client that they have asked for. And now I want to send this to them. If I drag it to this folder, what will happen is two things. Number one, it will show up in that folder locally on the computer. Secondly, it will immediately get uploaded to the Dropbox folder on the internet. And depending upon your internet speed, it may take a few seconds. But in this case, it should be pretty instantaneous because my internet is very, very fast. And then my client can just go and grab this at their end and bring this into whatever DAW they use. So, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that the compressor and the reverb are baked into this track, because they don't have these particular plugins and I do. So I want to make sure that they get this track and they can still use this in their song, even though they don't have the Klanghelm plugins. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this, and then I'm going to drag it to this folder. But before I let go of the mouse button, there are some options, and I'm going to use the Control or Command button to cycle through these options. And the one I want is to render the insert effects. So watch this. So let's grab this guy here. Let's go over to our client folder, and there you can see the options. So we've got WAV file with rendered insert effects, and then we've got audio loop. We don't want to do an audio loop, so we just want to tap the Control or Command option once, and now we got the X next to wave file with rendered insert effects. So now I let go, and there it goes. And as we can see from our little Dropbox, we got a little blue indicator, and now that's gone because that's how quick it was. So now that file is not only in this folder locally on my computer, but it is also on the internet as well. And so my client can now go pick this up, and they'll get a notification saying, hey, a new file has been uploaded to the client folder, and they'll be able to go get this. All right, so now that we've done that, we want to simulate what it's going to be like for the client to receive this. So let's say we are at the other end magically, and this is the folder. So I'm going to drag this guy back over here, and we're going to mute the original, and we are going to play this track. And let's see if the compressor and the reverb are there. They should be. And as you can hear, the reverb and the compressor are there. They are baked in. So this works. So if you are working on something and you have created something that has a specific sound, but you know that your receiving client does not have the plugins that you have used, so therefore the best option is to send the file with the rendered effects. So this is great if you are a guitar player and you are using a guitar amp simulator, and you need that guitar amp simulator to be baked into the audio. That is the option for you if you are sending a guitar solo part to somebody else. That's going to be the best option for you. Or if you're a vocalist and you already have a vocal chain that you use and that you like and is essentially your signature sound. So it's got your signature EQ, your signature compressor, and maybe your signature reverb, and you've got that set up as your insert effects chain. then you can send your vocal part with all of that baked in. And then whomever the producer is will just be able to drag that straight into the session. And they don't have to worry about processing your vocal because you've already done that for them. So this is really useful if you are a session guitar player and you are sending guitar parts with some distortion, with some compression, maybe some EQ, maybe a very specific set of stomp boxes that you use in Ampire, for example. Then you can send that and that will just get printed, and they will be able to just drag that straight in to whatever DAW they're using without needing to have your particular amp sim plugin. So if that's Ampire, it doesn't matter. They don't have to have Ampire in order to get the sound that you've used. So this is a really, really handy way to be able to send something to somebody with an insert set of effects baked into it. I know voiceover artists that use this all the time, and this is how they send their voiceovers with their effects printed. So they will have like EQ, compressor, and limiter, and maybe a splash of reverb, but for the most part, not reverb. They'll just send it dry with just EQ, compression, and limiting. And then they will send that off to their client using a similar method to this, and that's the way to do it. All right, so I hope that was useful. Chris says, why did it come back mono? It didn't come back mono. This is the new look for Studio One 7. So if you have your stereo track very narrow like this, you will only see one waveform. It doesn't mean it's mono. It's not. It's still stereo, as you can see from the stereo channel condition. But if I want to see both waveforms, all I have to do is just expand this. But if I collapse it and make it really, 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 really tiny like this, it's still a stereo file. It still sounds like a stereo file. It just only has the one waveform. So this was a new feature added to Studio One version 7. So if you don't squish this up too much, there's probably the switch over point there. So if you don't want to see it, don't have your channels too narrow. So I'm going to do the same with this one. Oh, look, there it went. And there we go. All right. So notice when the event is selected, it's white. The audio is white. And when you're not on it, it's black. So that's really, really handy. All right. So there you go. I hope that was useful and helpful. Let's see. Danny Taylor says, could you cover a bit of the scratch pad? I am accidentally opening it, but never used it to its potential. Scratch pad is actually pretty cool. It's really, really handy if you want to basically do an alternative mix of your song, or an alternative arrangement of your song. Or you have a section of your song that you want to keep. You don't want to discard it, but you don't want to have it as part of your main song. So let's say you have a song where maybe your bridge is, you're kind of going, meh, does this song need a bridge? I'm not sure. So you take the bridge and you put it into the scratch pad. And now the bridge is not in the song anymore, but it's separated and it's in the scratch pad. Cool thing about that is that means that your main song doesn't have the bridge anymore, but your bridge is still preserved. So it's a really useful little thing to do. So, scratch pad. Let's go and show that. So, that there is the launcher. That there is the scratch pad. So, does anyone know what the keyboard shortcut for opening the scratch pad is? If you're not sure what it is, you can go to Studio One and you can go to keyboard shortcuts. And you can go and you can type in here scratch pad. And you should find that okay, that's auto scroll, scratch pad. I don't have it assigned. Scratchpad, copy loop range to scratchpad, V. Delete scratchpad, duplicate scratchpad, rename scratchpad, view. Yeah, I don't have this assigned, which is probably, I think I probably changed that years ago for the same reason that you're encountering, Danny, where you accidentally are triggering it by typing something, or you're just pressing keys on your computer keyboard and you accidentally trigger it. So for that reason, I think I just unassigned it to nothing. I just deleted the assignment and then pressed apply and OK. So now it doesn't matter. I'm never going to accidentally trigger it, which is probably why I've never triggered it. I think I did that with Studio One version 3 because that's when the scratchpad was added to Studio One, was with version 3.0. And I think, like you guys, it had a keyboard shortcut assigned to it. And I was occasionally opening it up like you guys are doing sometimes. And so the way around that is to go into this keyboard shortcuts and then go to the view thing here and scratchpad. And if you see a keyboard assignment here, just delete it. And then you won't ever trigger it again. But in this case, we want to trigger it. So let's trigger it. So let's open it. So it now says scratchpad 1, but you can have as many scratchpads as you want. What does the scratchpad do, I hear you ask? Well, it's very, very cool. It opens effectively a second arrangement arrangement page on your screen. Notice how it starts anew with bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, etc., etc. Just like this one has a bar 1, this one also has a bar 1. Okay, so let's say we decide that this track here is great, but we don't want it. We want to put it in the scratchpad, and I've just copied it to the scratchpad. So it's now in both places, but so let's say I don't want it here anymore. Well, good news is I can just delete it from there, and it is nice and safe, and it's in my scratchpad. So I can now build an entirely new arrangement of a song by adding stuff to this scratchpad. And then if I go, you know what, I like this guitar part, I want that in my main song. You can drag it from the scratchpad to the main arrangement. So just like I dragged it from the main arrangement to the scratchpad, I can reverse that flow as well. See that? So if I just undo that, I'll show you again. So I can just literally just drag and drop it, and it's copied back to the main arranger view. So this is really handy. Danny says it's mapped to V by default. There you go. So yes, you can just unassign it. So just make it assigned to no key whatsoever, and then you won't accidentally trigger it. I'm looking at my keyboard shortcut. What does it say here? Yeah, on my keyboard shortcuts keyboard, because I've got one of those editor's keys keyboard shortcuts, V for me is copy loop range. So that's what that does. But if I do Control V, that copies something, anything that's in the clipboard. Or if I do, I think, Shift V, it does something else. I think that opens the launcher for me. I think. But anyway, so this is what the scratchpad is really useful for. You can take a whole section. If you're using the arranger track, you can go, you know what? This bridge section, I'm not so sure about. So I'm going to move it to my scratchpad, and I'm going to play with it a bit more in the safety area of the scratchpad. I'll chop out, move some things, maybe replace some things with other things, and then go, oh, you know what? I really like my bridge now. I'm going to move it back. And so you just drag and drop it, you put it back in your song, and there, your bridge is now replaced. Or if you want to do a remix of or a radio edit of your song, for example, if you have like a 6-minute long song and you need to get it down to 3 minutes and 27 seconds for radio airplay, then what you can do is you can move the whole song to your scratch pad, and it will copy everything. It doesn't just move stuff. It copies. It makes a new copy, puts that in the scratch pad, and then you can take away sections from the song that you don't need, so you can get it down to that 3 minutes and 27 seconds that you need for the radio airplay. You can save that song, and then you can export just the scratch pad out. You can export a mix down of the scratch pad. So you've got your radio edit in the scratch pad, and your main 6-minute song is completely unaffected. So how does this work in actual practice? What is actually going on to make the scratch pad work? Well, here's the story of how the scratch pad developed, how this idea came about, because I think it's a brilliant idea. So how this idea came about was that we were being sent by Presonus customers songs because they wanted to show us a particular, either they wanted to show us a particular bug in action, or they wanted to show a feature request that they had, and they wanted to illustrate it with a song. So they would send us this song, and we would find that way down at the other end of the song, so like at bar 1000, there was some other material. So there were other audio events down there. And so it became evident to us that what was going on was that people were basically taking a section of the song, moving it way down at the other end of the song, because they didn't want to discard it. They maybe didn't want it as part of the main song, but they didn't want to discard it because they thought that there might be ideas within that section that they might use at some later date. And so that is how the idea for scratch pads was developed. Literally, the scratch pad is way down at the end of the main arranger view. Way down at the end. It's so far down the end, it's kind of out of sight, because you would never think of scrolling all the way down to that particular end. But that's where the scratch pads live. They are way down at the end. Which is why what you find is you cannot do an alternative mix using scratch pads. Why? Because they are using the same channels and the same insert effects and the same sends. So you can't do an alternative effect without affecting the main mix, because they're using the same channels, because they are the same tracks that are in the main arranger view. It's all the same. It's all the same thing. Essentially, it is one massive arranger page, but it's just split into different views. And what you're seeing here is, it looks like a new view, but it is all the way down at bar 1000. It's just that we have it starting with bar 1 because that's where most songs start. So I hope that helps you understand how the scratch pad works. I think it's a pretty neat feature, and I think since we introduced it in version 3, there are quite a lot of people that use it, but there's also quite a lot of people that don't really know that it's there. They don't really realize that it's there, because since, all the launch videos were out for version 3, yes, there were a lot of videos that covered Scratchpad, but after that, when we got down the road and we got into version 4 and version 5 and version 6, of course, we don't really talk about scratch pads anymore. So scratch pads have become a little bit of a mystery again. So, but it's an old feature, but it's a good one. I really like the scratch pads. Good question. Let's see. Mark is here. He says, I'm here. I still use WeTransfer with collaborators who are not all Studio One users, even doing WeTransfer one stateside based Studio One user. There you go. RJ Hagler's here. He says, I've asked guitarists to send a clip for a song with their guitar effects only, asking them to stay out of spatial effects. Yes. Don't get me started on Dolby Atmos. I like it. I think it's a great addition to Studio One. I have no personal need for it, but I'm glad it's there for those that do use it. Like my friend and colleague, Marcus Huskins, he has a Dolby Atmos rig. So he's gone and spent all the money to get like the full speaker array for a Dolby Atmos setup. And so he does use Dolby Atmos in Studio One. Because he is required by his clientele to do Atmos mixes of their productions that he's involved in. So for him, it's essential. For me, it's not. I work in jazz and I work in folk and country music and that kind of stuff. When I say country music, I'm talking about English country music or Scottish country music, folk music essentially. So it's all acoustic. And I'm working in stereo because you don't do jazz in stereo, in anything else other than stereo, I should say. All right. Good questions. All right, let's go see what else do we have here. Just Bob says pressing V while having a section of your song selected will copy that section to a new scratch pad, allowing you to experiment with different arrangements without affecting your original song. That is correct, which is what I just talked about. So that is very cool to have that confirmed there as well. Martin Calland is here. He says, can you demonstrate an audio recording in clip mode recording? My audio will not play back in clip launcher mode. When I restart Studio One, I can hear it in playback. Strange bug. No, it's not a bug. I actually tackled this, I think, on the last Sunday Night Live. But sure, I think we could probably deal with it again. Let me go and close this song because we don't need this one anymore. And what we can do is we can open another brand new blank song. And we can go over here and we can open the launcher. And I will need an audio track for this. So we're going to press T. And we'll set this to VO. And keep it input left. And there we go. So now, if I record this, if I arm this to record, I need to click on the cell to record into the cell. If I click on the record button down here, it records into the arranger view, which in this case we don't want to do. So I need to record into here. So here we go. Hello! 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 And as you can see, it is playing back beautifully. Hello! Instantly. Hello! 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 So that worked. Now, let's be sure that that really did work, and let's record into the next scene, and we'll say goodbye. Goodbye! 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 Hello! Hello! Goodbye! Goodbye! Hello! Hello! Goodbye! Goodbye! All right, so as you can see there, recording into two cells garnered me instant playback. You got to make sure that this arrow is pointing to the launcher section. If this arrow is pointing this way, notice how these are now grayed out. Hello! Hello! But if I click on the play button for a cell, the arrow immediately changes. But as soon as this arrow is pointing over here, it is now pointing to the tracks on the arranger. So I can record over here now. Hello! 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 And what I can do is I can put this into this cell here. Hello! 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 If I wanted to, or I can just play it back from here. Hello! All right, so notice I'm getting playback from the main arranger view with the arrow pointing to the track. And when the arrow is pointing to the launcher, hello! Goodbye! Hello! Hello! We have all our cells playing as they should be. Hello! Hello! Alright, so I hope that helps. And as I said, I have done a full-length, where's my launcher demo? There it is. Let's get that open. So I've gone ahead and I've made this little launcher song using some loops actually from some of the Presonus loop libraries like this one. This one's from Backbeat, but I've also got some loops from Splice as well, and I've put them into here, and I can trigger different scenes. So if I was to double click on scene 1, scene 2, scene 4, back to scene 1. And this is me just basically just using the launcher without really knowing what I was doing particularly. But it worked pretty well. The scene playlist is very, very useful. You can change the launch mode from trigger to gate to toggle. You can change the quantize. At the moment it's set to 1 bar. So basically after you trigger it, it will start playback of that particular scene at the start of the next bar, but you can change that to whatever you want. You can change that to like literally the next 16th note, whatever you need. But you can also change that on, I think you can change that on individual cells as well. So if you change this quantized value to a different value, like every 8 bars or 2 bars or 1 bar or every 16th note, you know, the global value is 1 bar. But you can change this for a particular cell. A particular cell, when you trigger it, is going to trigger after 1 bar, or it's going to trigger, you know, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th note, whatever you want to do. It's pretty powerful, actually. And so you can mix and match between playing stuff from the launcher, playing stuff from the arranger view, and you can play both at the same time. You just got to make sure the arrows are pointing either at the launcher or they're pointing at the tracks. If you've not got them pointed in the correct direction, then it will affect how you can record, and it will affect playback as well. So Morton, I hope that I hope that this is helpful to you. I use this a lot. Surprisingly, I didn't think I would find the launcher particularly useful, because I was just like, hey, you know, I'm a jazz guy. Why would I need a clip launcher? That's for beat makers. Until I started using it and having a load of fun with it. And then I realized, actually, there's a bunch of really creative things that I can do with this. To create new arrangements, to do remixes, to, you know, bring some loops in, samples in from, you know, say, a Charlie Parker record and put new drums on it, or, you know, whatever I want to do, or to trigger a particular phrase or whatever. I can do loads of stuff and keep it, you know, kind of jazz, but also make it very, very contemporary. Good question though. But no, as you can see here, I cannot reproduce that, so I am not going to call that one a bug. But still, it's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. Even though I couldn't reproduce it, as you could see there, it doesn't mean that you know, I'm not saying, hey, you know, sorry. What I'm saying is I can't reproduce the issue, so I'm not going to call it a bug for now. But maybe what you could do is you could make a support ticket from your My Presonus account. Just go into your account and then click on support, and then click on the blue plus sign that's in the column on the left, and that will get you started creating a new support ticket. And then just basically give them the steps that they need to take to make the issue happen. So if you know what it is that triggers this particular issue and how to do it, and if you can do it regularly in a new song on command, then give them those steps and then maybe send them an affected song as well. Attach the song to your ticket, and then you're giving them loads of information. You're giving them steps that they can take to reproduce it. And if tech support can reproduce it, then what they will do is they will pass that over to the Presonus QA team, the software QA team, and then they will follow the same steps. And if they can reproduce it, then they will be able to pass that over to the developers to look at. That's basically how it works. We can't call it a bug until it's been verified by the Presonus QA team as it being a bug. We can say, hey, we suspect it's a bug, but if there's no reproduction, then it can't be called one. Sean is in the house. Sean Carr, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Anybody else got any other questions? We got 24 people here, which is very nice. It's very cool. We lost a few when we were doing the old launcher thing there, because we had like 34 here, which is great. 34. Peaking at 34 is pretty good. That's near to the Sunday Night Live record. It's not quite the Sunday Night Live record, but it's near to it. We're getting closer to it. If we start peaking over 40, then the actual record itself stands at 50. And that was for a Sunday Night Live that I did, a long time ago when we did the Studio One 5 launch. And that was back in 2020. We were in pandemic mode, so I suspect that had something to do with it. But it was also Studio One 5 launch, and I did a Sunday Night Live, or just, I think it was just like a live stream, a Studio One 5 special live stream, I think I did. And that had more than 50 people in it. And we held it over 40 people for the whole show. I'd love to get back to those kind of values. That was really cool. Anyway, like I said, we got 24 people here. I would like to see 24 likes. That would be very kind. If you could all hit that like button if you have not done so yet, I would appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. It means that my videos and this show is more likely to get recommended via the algorithm to more people, and then more people will come and join us. Like Morton has come and joined us tonight. So Morton, I'm very glad you're here. Thank you for your question. I appreciate it a lot. If you have any other questions in the future, Morton, please do drop by. Please do come to the show and ask your question. This is the place for Studio One questions. So there we go. I don't think I'm seeing any other questions. Scrolling back up to the top. But there we go. So that's scratch pads and the launcher. Both are very, very cool features, and I'm very, very glad that we have those in Studio One. I tend to use the scratch pad more than the launcher. Launcher for me is just a lot of fun. Scratch pad I do use a lot for doing radio edits and stuff like that. So when I was saying, hey, you could use this for making radio edits, I do actually do that. One of the things that I do. If somebody I'm working with needs a radio edit for a radio station, that's what I do. And the scratch pad is perfect for that because it doesn't muck up the main arrangement. So really, I think it's probably one of the best things that we ever added to Studio One, actually. And I think it gets chronically underused and not really talked about. So I vow to this day to talk more about scratch pads because they are incredibly useful. All right, folks, any more questions? Otherwise, we're going to end up finishing early, and I don't like to finish early. I like to do the whole hour. And we got 10 minutes left, so it'd be awful nice if we could get at least another couple of questions in. Otherwise, you're just going to have to put up with the sound of me drumming on my mixer, which I do quite a lot. And yes, I do have a military drumming background. Didn't play drumline, didn't play drum corps or anything like that, but I was in the Navy for a very, very short time. And when I was in the Navy, I played in the marching band, which actually was a load of fun. But what was really odd was all the other snare drummers were right-handed apart from me. I was the guy on the end playing this way around. All the other guys were playing this way around. I was playing this way around. So they put me at the end. Because if I was anywhere else, it just looked a little odd. So that's where they put me. They put me on either, one end or the other. But they always put me at the end. But the good thing was I did end up getting to do a lot of the solos because, I was the lefty, and, they like to push me out and say, okay, you go and do the solos. So I did that. Oh, I just farted. That's not good. So yeah, so I used to do all of that as well. But it does not look like we are getting any other questions. So if there are no questions, we will have to finish it there, because I don't want to spend the next 9 minutes just sitting here staring at the camera, because you guys will not enjoy that. So yeah, so I hope that those little demonstrations on the scratch pad and on the launcher are helpful. They are really, really good fun. But if you've got any questions about Splice or any of the other new features that have been added to Studio One, then I would be happy to answer those questions. Can I demo pitch correction with Melodyne? Yes, I can. And Morton has made a ticket. Good. All right, Melodyne. Melodyne's great. I love Melodyne. So let's go back to Studio One. We can close the launcher now because we don't need it. Goodbye, launcher. And what we will do is we will delete cell, delete cell, delete cell, and we will close the launcher. We don't need the launcher anymore. But what we'll do is we will also delete that event there. And I will sing something into the microphone, and then we'll do some pitch correction. All right, here we go. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Yes, I can sing quite high. All right, so let's listen back to that absolute pile of absurdity. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Yes, I have. I can sing very high, but I can also sing quite low as well. So you can do Command or Control M, or you can right click and edit with Melodyne. I'm going to right click and edit with Melodyne, but you can see there is the keyboard shortcut. I'm on a PC, so it's going to be Control and M for me, but if you're on a Mac, it's going to be Command and M for you. And what you'll see now is Melodyne Essentials has now opened up in this window here. And as you can see, I'm not actually too bad at pitching my notes. Pitch correction, pitch correction. Yep, so that was a D. And this is an E flat. This probably should have been a D. And it's a little bit of a sharp D. So what we can do here is we can, you used to be able to mouse wheel this. We can set that to 0 if we want it to be very, very exact. So if I go back and play that, pitch correction. So this is a little sharp. That should probably be an E. Let's set that to 0 as well. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch. So this is sharp as well. Is there like a snapping mode on here? Yeah, I'm not seeing a snapping mode, but it is snapping. So that is a flat E. Okay, I can't seem to be able to... I used to be able to mouse wheel this and it would change, but it's not doing that anymore. They must have changed that. That's frustrating. All right, let's play it again. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. I'm a little bit sharp. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Now, one thing I can do is I can select all, and then I can use these macros here to center them. So I can go, I want them all centered. I also want to narrow some of the pitch drift. And then we can hit OK. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Oh, that's not right. There we go. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch. Actually, that should be down there. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. And that's what I wanted. Stephen says, if you select all notes, then double click on the selection, all notes will move to the exact notes. Yes, they will. That is definitely one way to do it. Another way is just using these macro control buttons here. So, like I showed you, if I do Control A and then click on this guy, you can, this little window will pop up. You can snap it to chord scale. Include notes edited manually, and you can correct the pitch center and the pitch drift. I'm gonna hit cancel on that because I think everything is as I wanted it to be. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Now, bonus points. Now that I have done that, I can do something else with this. I can bring in presence. And I can go for, let's say a tenor saxophone. And I can go and grab and drag that down here. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. Now, as you can see here at the end here, it's kind of doubled up a note. It doesn't need to do that. So what I can do is I can take this long note away here, and I can just extend that note out. But that's worked out pretty well. Pitch correction, pitch correction, pitch correction. And there you go. You can record a vocal. You can edit it with Melodyne. You can get all the notes to be exact, and then you can drop that down onto an instrument track, and hey presto, you've got a melody line now being performed by a tenor saxophone. You could change that to whatever instrument you want. But this shows you how powerful this can be. You can create, if you're not a saxophone player and you don't know any saxophone players, what you can do here is you could sing what you want the saxophone solo to be, edit it about a bit in Melodyne, and then drag that down onto an instrument track. And then you'll need to make at least one or two, maybe more edits of the MIDI to get it sounding kind of how you want it to sound. But if essentially you can sing it and then drop it straight down onto an instrument track, and boom, you've got yourself a tenor sax solo. So that's a really useful bonus usage of Melodyne Essentials. So I hope that was helpful as well. I actually use that a fair bit if I'm wanting. I mean, I know plenty of saxophone players. I also play saxophone. But, you know, I do have much better saxophone players than I am, and I can just call on their services. I can just give a track to them. But if I want to give them kind of like a ballpark idea of what I want, you know, the general idea of what I want the sax solo to sound like, you know, what I'm hearing in my head, I can just sing it, drop it down onto an instrument track, and then I can send that off to whomever my sax player is, and they then have a nice idea of what it is I'm after, and then they can do their own version of it, and they can put their own spin on it, and then they can send me that sax solo, and I replace my own thing with their much better playing. So that's a really, really interesting, really, really useful and powerful little bonus way in which you can use Melodyne. Very, very cool. That was a good last little question. Mark says, in the Navy band, what was all the marching like? It was fun. I actually quite liked it. I mean, I'm a jazz guy. I played jazz drums. I had to learn how to play much more tightly for playing more kind of rudimental stuff. So I had to kind of learn that, and some of the cadences and some of the calls and things like that. I had to learn those. That was learning a new skill. That was like learning a new way to play altogether. And also marching snare drums are incredibly responsive. Like when you strike the drum, the stick, you know, rebound is massive. So you have to learn how to control that rebound at least a bit. Because marching is all about everybody has the exact same stick heights. And so you have to learn how to control that quite a bit. Although, you know, a lot of the drummers, they play with a very tight grip. So there's not much of a gap here. But, you know, where the stick is, there's not a whole lot. They're actually gripping quite tightly here. So they're using a lot more kind of wrist strokes and finger strokes for, you know, for playing the calls and the cadences and stuff like that. Whereas I'm used to using just the natural rebound of the drum and the responsiveness of the drum I'm making the drum and the sticks do all the work when I play normally. So I had to learn kind of a halfway house. I could never do it fully because I just couldn't. So I did use some rebound strokes more than the other guys were doing. So I think my sound maybe just sounded a little bit more open than theirs did. But there's not much I can do. You know, I've been playing my way for a long time, so it's hard to kind of learn a new way of controlling the sticks. But, you know, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And then, of course, you know, that's the playing aspect. You also have to walk. And you also have to keep in step with everybody else. And if you're going in a circle, if you're on the outside, you have to make big strides. Whereas if you're on the inside, you're basically barely putting one foot in front of the other. because the outside has to make a wider turning circle than you do if you're on the inside. So yeah, that's fun. And you just have to kind of remember that. Have I tried Scalar 2? No, I have not. I've never really needed it, to be honest. I know why some people have it. There's another very, very cool thing out there by Waves called Ovox. Which there are loads of YouTube ads for Ovox. I've seen all the ads. It looks really quite cool. It looks really quite sophisticated. I don't really have a reason to get it, to be honest, because I don't think I would ever actually use it practically, but it looks like a fun tool, a fun thing to play with, where you can basically just sing into the plugin and then it can turn your voice into drums or whatever. I think that's quite powerful, especially if you're not a keyboard player or if you're not a drummer. You can beatbox into the mic and then turn that into drums. That's a very, very cool tool. Definitely very powerful. I just don't think I would really actually use it to its fullest potential, to be honest. So probably for me, not really worth it. But you know, if you're not really a good drum programmer, then something like Ovox might be quite handy, because you can beatbox into the thing and then it can discern what sound is meant to be what, and it can turn it into drums, or at least that's what the ads claim. Whether it can actually do that or not, I don't actually know. But that's it for tonight's show. We will be back on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. Hopefully I will be fitter and healthier by then. It would seem I have I thought I had flu. I don't think I have. I think I have had COVID, to be honest. Although all of my COVID tests have come back negative. But to be fair, we're using test kits that probably have not been calibrated for the new variant that's doing the rounds. So I don't know. But yes, I'm probably going to go back to bed, to be honest. But thank you to every single one of you for joining me. We peaked, as I said, at around about 34, which was very, very cool. So, like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central Time for Songwriting Simplified. So if you have songwriting questions, if you have composing questions, if you have arranging questions, if you have music production in that kind of sense questions, but also if you have music theory questions, so like melody, harmony, all of that kind of stuff, and you know, the more technical aspects of music theory, if you've got questions about that, that's the show for those kind of questions. And you can be as technical as you like, because you know, I am actually a qualified musicologist, so and I've taught composition to undergrad level, so to university undergraduate level. So I've got plenty of knowledge, and so I'd be happy to answer all of those questions that you may have. So until then, folks, have a good first half of your week. Enjoy your Mondays, and I'll see you then. I now need to go and find my outro music, and there, I have it. All right, folks, good night. Oh yeah, I should have said, if you want to join the after show, Billy is launching one now. The link is in the chat. go grab it if you want to go and join the after show. But otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday. Good night, everybody.